One of the films I was talking about on one of my trips to Iwama, and I wanted to finish the story about all the things that you may put in your head about what you want to do. Those who have never been, can you imagine finally making the decision? You've arranged to go with one of your friends who is also an Aikidoka. You go to Iwama, you're going to enjoy all the things that sensei had built, and as well as training with what we would consider the best in the world. Sensei's top student, Saito Sensei, who was left the caretaker's job of running the dojo until he passed away himself. And then it reverted back to the Ueshiba family, where now it's being run, and run very nicely. It's had a lot of money spent on it, made it very nice and done it all up and sort of refurbished what required throughout the whole premises. I haven't seen it since then, but the pictures that I have seen show it very beautifully. Now, from the dojo area, if you can imagine two separate plots of land, and they're divided by they're divided by a small tar macadam road that goes straight past the dojo entrance, Saito Sensei's house section, and where Saito Sensei built a 3-story building for his son Hidehiro for when the dojo was no longer being run by the Saito family, and then they would be able to have their own dojo, Sensei's house, that would obviously go to Hidehiro and everything that goes with it. The dojo's on the top floor of the 3-story building. The restaurant is below. It's not a restaurant any longer. It was only a restaurant for a very short period of time before it closed. But Hidehiro got remarried and moved to another part of the village where he built his dojo. And that also looks very beautiful. Never been there, but looks very beautiful. Anyhow, we're in Japan, and I've got many stories that I may share with you if time allows one day. But the one thing I've always been very personally interested in is the spiritual side of Sensei's art, but kept a lot of it to myself because in the days that I was training, it was a very physical time, and really because we could never seem to get the techniques right, and even when you thought you had them, you'd find that there'd be somebody who's immovable, or better than you, and so you're forever striving to improve your technical side. But on a personal note, when I'm living in my own head and living back in my own country, and really living in your head, I'll say, more than on the mat time. The mat time was devoted to getting down to the technical. You were so busy working with your partner. These were the days where you hardly said 2 words. You might say, "Can I do it again?" But the real training was you wasn't allowed to do it again. When I was taught in the UK, we would be allowed to do it 4 times each, and then you'd change partners. Your partner would change and do the technique, and it went on like this It was more of an aerobic workout. So if you had time to talk, you'd use it by getting your breath back. And you'd say in an hour and a half class, you would say very few words. You might have a small laugh or a quick, can I do it again, if it was really bothering you. Most of the time, you would just train and be thrown down, up you'd get, throw them down, and that's how it would go. You'd sit in seiza while the sensei taught the next technique or give you a talk, and there was no set time how long that would be. But, finally I'm off to Iwama. I've said before that Saito Sensei said to me at one of the seminars around the world, he'd awarded me up to 4th Dan, and he said, Tony, for your 5th Dan, you've never been to Iwama, you've got to come to Iwama if you want me to give you it. So please come. And we arranged that I would be going in 1994, where he would test me. So I arrive, it's all very strict, and you have certain rules that you have to abide by, and you're told all them by the deshes that are already living there. You're told what to do, what cloths to use. This cloth with 2 dots is for this cloth with 1 dot for that. So it's a real wake-up call. And being in my 40s, you don't really like being told what to do. You've run a business, you've brought up a family, you've made decisions since you was an adult. You don't like 19-year-olds telling you what to do, and especially in a sort of a manner that's disrespectful. So, you just think to yourself, okay, well I'm only here for 3 weeks, this was my first visit, I'm only here for 3 weeks, I can put up with that and not retaliate or get upset about it, just get on with it, do what you've come for, get your 5th Dan, enjoy Saito Sensei's company. But then it goes on to, I'm actually in O-Sensei's dojo. I'm looking at O-Sensei's belongings. I'm looking at O-Sensei's books, in numerous amount of books. They're all laying all over the place as if the shelves have collapsed and nobody's been allowed to repair the shelves and put them back up. There's a small kitchen that's never used. It's called the Chisai Shokudo. It's a small kitchen. It's next to O-Sensei's. There's a wall, but next to O-Sensei's living room, and where he would also sleep with his wife on the tatami. The tatami's down permanently in that room. Then there's a small corridor. He had a very, very small but westernised toilet in a sort of a triangular piece. It looks like it was almost like an add-on, and somebody my size would, I don't think, ever get in there. Anyhow, and then the doorway comes through into this Chisai Shokudo kitchen, and there's a stainless steel sink there. I didn't see any cooking facilities, just more tatami, and this is where the students would put all their bags, their clothing, and this is where we would sleep in the afternoons. And in August, when I went, it's definitely the wrong month to go. It's hot, humid, and 4 hours of training a day. Very, very demanding, and I thought I was super fit and prepared myself. But I don't think I was prepared quite for what I received. Anyhow, shall never forget it. A wonderful experience. But one of the things I asked was, across the road where the ginger is, it was all boarded up. There's this big, like poles, they call it the gate. You may have seen it on some of the pictures. It's like telegraph poles, forming like a T frame. And when you look through that, you'll see the actual jinja, the building where they hold ceremonies, and the dosha would come after Osensei passed. But Osensei built it all. He built several items around the jinja that are fenced off now, that he would, I suppose, class as monuments to the gods. I don't know what they are really, they're just wooden structures. Again, they can be seen in photographs. So I just asked, I'm gone all that way, I'd like to see into the jinja, please. No, you can't do that, it's only for special ceremonies and it's not for you to go there. And me being me, I've pretty much tried to do what I want to do all my life. I hope that's not an arrogant statement, but why shouldn't you try to do your best and try to get what you want out of life as long as it's not going to hurt anybody in the process? And I'd travel all these many hours to get to Iwama, and I just wanted to see what it was like inside the jinja. So I didn't even tell my friend that my plan was to wait for the right time and then I would go across and look in the jinja. I can't remember if in 1994 if I had a mobile phone or not. I don't think I did. Anyhow, I know I didn't have one and I didn't have a torch either. It may have been my shortcomings, because I certainly needed one from what I'm about to tell you. So most nights after training, they'd be training at 1 hour, for 1 hour, and then most nights after training, I can't remember the time, so I'm going to guess it was 7 till 8 at night. But if any of the top teachers, Japanese teachers, wanted to come and drink in the main kitchen, what was adjacent to the dojo itself, not the small kitchen I was talking about of Osensei's. It's not a very interesting building at all, sort of a tin building that holds perhaps up to 20 students, I'm guessing again, but there was quite a few while I was there. And Saito Sensei would come on certain lunch times and he would eat with us and tell us stories, and that was wonderful. And sometimes he'd even cook. He used to love cooking green chilies that we would not want to eat because they were a little burnt and blow your head off. Anyhow, he used to laugh a lot when he saw us not being able to eat them so freely as he did. So in the evenings, they would come, and because it was a busy time of the year, and when people leave, they have to leave a gift for the showman. And this was normally in the, you would leave an envelope, perhaps with some money, but you'd normally leave bottles of sake, and you'd never believe the massive size of these bottles. I mean, they look like 2 or 3 litre in size of either shochu or sake. I don't know if one's a rice wine and one's a potato, but they both taste like sake to me. So you would leave these, they'd be in a nice wrapping, and you'd put them in front of the showman. And you may have seen photos of the Iwama dojo with all these bottles in front of them at different times. And what we would do as students, they would be left there for a period of time, and then they would be removed and taken over to the main kitchen where all the students would dine. And then one of the top senpai would come, and they would decide that, you know, everybody would drink, and you'd open these bottles and drink whatever the drink was there, and until they decided that they wanted to stagger home or however they would leave, that would be the time we would stop and go to bed. And some nights you'd pray they'd go early, but they never did. But one night, out of the 3 weeks, nobody came. We sat there, we had our meal, and everybody was so worn out, they all said they were going to bed, and I pretended I was going to bed, but of course you'd get up, perhaps to go to the toilet, whenever. So I had a plan. I thought, I'm going to go over to the ginger. So not telling anyone about it, or even my friend, off I went across the road, and it was so pitch black, it was unbelievably dark, but I knew, and there was enough light to see where I was going. In the daytime I'd spotted a side entrance door to the ginger. So I made my way up to the door, opened it, but inside was so dark. I don't know if they've got electricity there, but anyhow, it was so dark that I couldn't see. But I'd worked out over the period of the days, because you rake in front of the ginger the sort of gravel, dirt, whatever it is, sandy dirt. Each morning you would rake it, all the dashes would rake it in a line until you got to the road when you'd finished. And then we'd train weapons on it. Always seems a bit strange to me that you're starting afresh and you leave it all untidy, rather than rake it perhaps again at the end of the period, leaving it tidy. I digress. Okay, so I decided that I felt down, opening the door, I felt down, I could feel that there was tatami there. So I thought, right, take the shoes off, leave them there, and I'll shiko to the centre of the ginger, and I had to guess roughly where the centre would be. Of course I knew where the showman part would be, because I knew when I come in the door entrance that the showman would be to my right. So not wanting anybody to catch me, whether they would or not, that time of night, I closed the door as I come in, and it was so black. I can remember now that when it's that black that you cannot even see your hand if you put it up in front of your face. And that didn't deter me, because I just wanted to be in those senses, spiritual room. So I shikoed to the centre, as I say, and I sat there, and all of a sudden it was as if this horrendous noise started. And all I can tell you is, whether I have a vivid imagination, perhaps I do, but it sounded like all the gods were either cross with me, or they were just telling me, what are you doing in here? Or they were showing me what I'd like to think about, even if it's not true, that they knew that I was there, and they wanted to make me realise that there is life after death, and they wanted to show me the power of their presence. The sounds were coming in all directions into my ears, and I've never heard so many sounds before. And I've tried to replicate them on one of the films, but not with great success. But they were sort of high-pitched, low-pitched, deep, but not just one or two, but many of these different sounds. And all I could remember doing was, I don't know if I closed my eyes or not. It was that dark, it didn't matter. But I remember sort of gripping the tatami with my knees and my buttocks the best I could, because all I could think was, hang on, because it was so powerful. It was as if they were going to put me like in a washing machine, and I was going to become hurled through the air in all different directions. The voices were so turbulent that the only thing I could think of, and it must have been a natural reaction, was to cling on to the tatami and hope that they wouldn't take me somewhere or do something with me. Perhaps that was one of the few times in life where I actually feared the unknown. I came after it calmed down. It did calm down the sounds, and I'm sure it wasn't there only for a few, perhaps seconds. It might have been there longer, but I don't know. But I just hung on, and when it all went still again, I slowly shikoed backwards to the door, or where I guess the door was. I remember trying to search for it, the get-out latch, placed my trainers on, blue and white trainers I had at the time, placed my trainers on and went back and went to sleep. And so now I'm sharing this with the world because I think that it's worth telling the story. I've had lots of different dojos. I've had since then I had a dojo in a big dojo in UK. I had another quite reasonable one on a Greek island, Kefalonia. That would hold about 6 people, and now I've just built this one, what holds 8 to 10 at maximum people. So I didn't really want to build this last one because I couldn't see any point, but then I come up with an idea that it would be nice to teach small groups and very detailed and personal Aikido. Now, when I finished this, I got the tatami down, it all looked nice, all nice and new. I got a spare piece of tatami, put it down so it didn't impregnate it. I got my meditation stool out, put my meditation stool down in front of the shaman, sat on it, closed my eyes, and I didn't have all the lights on that I've got now, but I closed my eyes, and all those gods and spirits or whatever they were here in this very dojo, and I've never ever had it in the other 2 dojos. So I'd like to conclude this story now by telling you that perhaps this dojo is meant, and perhaps that's what the spirits are telling me, to pass on what I can about the spiritual aspects that I've found throughout my Aikido career, rather than keeping them personally to myself and everybody thinking I'm a lunatic or weird or odd. Perhaps all Aikido are odd and weird, but to share it with others. So to me, this was an indication that I should now seek teaching more about the spiritual aspects that one should try to prosper in, and then they can do the technical with other teachers, and as well as I'll still do technical, but really it's more about talking about the spiritual side of what I think we should do, and hopefully those gods and spirits that were with me in '94 in Iwama and again when I've heard them here, and they were the exact same ones. So why they would have come, I've no idea. I didn't think of it, I didn't bring them on. Why would I have done? 94 to 2023. It's wasn't in my intention whatsoever. But I bought the house, the kodama and all the equipment when I was there in 94. I had as I said in the other film, I had Sensei Hendrix kind enough to do a special Shinto ceremony to bless it and to hopefully ask the spirits if they would reside in the house and help me with my Aikido in the future. And hopefully that's what's happened, and I will let you know in the afterlife, because obviously I won't be able to answer that in this one. Thank you for your time, and I hope you've enjoyed the stories that I've been telling. Bye for now.